This podcast is intended to provide information for educational purposes only and to serve as a starting point for you to have a conversation with your personal physician. Nothing stated on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Consult with your physician before undertaking or changing any treatment plan.
The importance of having muscle, especially as you get older and you start aging, is so critical.
Muscle is the fountain of youth. Having muscle, building it, using it regularly is probably the single most important thing you can do to slow the aging process down.
Welcome back to the Pound of Cure Weight Loss Podcast. We are here with Denise today, the conversation with the crunchy sleever. Welcome, Denise.
Well, thanks so much.
Hi, Denise.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for inviting me. I'm very excited to speak to both of you today.
So we were talking a little bit earlier. Even though you live in North Carolina right now, where's your accent from?
What accent? I don't know. Well, I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally. Born and raised. I think Dr. Weiner and I spoke about being in Brooklyn a little bit last time we chatted, but born and raised, and I'm here for 8 years now. So my accent, unfortunately, is still here. It's still Brooklyn.
Well, there's a lot of New Yorkers everywhere, so you're probably at home.
Yes,
I did my residency in New York, so I lived in New York. My wife's from Jersey, so
yes,
yeah,
it sticks with you.
My daughter's at Syracuse, so there's plenty of New Yorkers there. Yeah, so we're a New York friendly family.
I love it. I love it.
So we would really love to hear about your journey, Denise. Obviously, you're a bit farther out from surgery, which I think is really interesting, and we'll dig into that a little bit more in a minute. But why don't you just go ahead and go back as far as you desire to, and tell us your bariatric journey.
Sure, thank you. So, I got surgery 6 years ago, so in 2018. When I moved to North Carolina, it was kind of like a little bit of a fresh start for me, away from family and distraction and all of these things. So I was able to really focus on me in 2018. I did do a little bit of prep work before I went ahead and decided to schedule surgery. I knew that I had existing anxiety issues, which would result in overeating, and that's how I coped with anxiety. I didn't know about all of that at first, so I went to therapy. I sought out therapy with a therapist that specialized in eating disorders, even though I didn't think I had an eating disorder. But we discussed for great length for around 8 months of time. And then it was kind of like an aha moment. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is anxiety. And this is how I cope with it because I never like sitting with these feelings. So I did a lot of that work beforehand. So I kind of had an idea of what the trigger was. So knowing what my trigger was made going into surgery a lot easier, and I had more understanding, and it also gave me a lot more grace for myself and understanding the trigger, and now understanding how I'm going to change my lifestyle being a bariatric patient and like kind of like marrying it together. So I had surgery in North Carolina in 2018, and I was so on board. I passed the medical, psychology exam. I had tried to get bariatric surgery once before in New York when in around 2014, went to NYU. I failed the psychiatric portion, and she said, I do not recommend that you have surgery. And she gave me all the reasons why. And I was testing her because I was being very real and I was saying just exactly how I felt. And she said, I am not approving you. So it was a big eye opener. So I had a lot of work to do, which I did. And I committed to the program. And I was just determined. I just knew if I was going to have the surgery, if I was going to have part of my anatomy removed, then I'm going to take this serious. So which I did, and I committed, and I lost my weight within a year, a little less than a year. I lost 110 pounds. I was originally at 250 pounds. I got down to about 139, and I'm 5'3". So for my body frame, I I felt it was a little too lean for me. Um, so then I was okay. I got as low as I could, and now I need to find my happy spot, my happy place. So, which is scary for a bariatric patient because normally we've been on diets and up and down and up and down and trying to find that little happy weight is going to see an increase on the scale, and that could be a bit of a panic for bariatric patients. But I was really committed to my behavior change and understanding the why, really tapping into um, my hunger and my fullness really saved me. To this day, I'm still able to pause, take a second, let the brain and my stomach connect for a second. Am I still hungry? Do I still have room? Um, so that's really those behaviors that I really committed to in the beginning and in that first year truly changed my life. And it truly changed my relationship with food and how I use it, how I view it, how I approach it. And it's carried me all these years moving forward.
That's amazing. Will you talk a little bit more about how you were able to shift your feeling of success or progress, even from no longer wanting to see that lowest weight? And did your shift towards fitness happen around that time? And what were you using as non scale measures of success to help you not feel so scared of seeing that number go up?
Well, developing strength in the gym and seeing my body respond to my fitness program. So I went from being very lean to I don't want to say like a more of like a hollow kind of look to my body to a more rounded, filled out muscular physique. That's what I was more going for. For everyone has their ideal. My ideal is a shapely figure. I want to have shape. I don't want to just be straight up and down. And if you want to be straight up and down, that's fine. That's to each their own. You know, but I like to have shape and curves. So understanding when you want to have shape and curves, that's going to allocate, weight differently, and it's going to show a little bit differently up on the scale. Um, as long as my pants still fit me, even at my 139-pound weight, and it still fit me when I was up to the 150, to me, that means I was recomping the right way. If I wasn't moving into different sizes, even though my body was changing and growing muscle, I was okay with that.
And I just want to back up for a second. You said recomping. So, for those who are listening who are maybe not familiar with that term, that's short for body recomposition, which is basically building muscle, losing body fat to change the composition of your body, which you've clearly done.
Hmm. Yeah, and then doing that along with eating carbs again. You have to hydrate. You have to fuel your body in a certain way so that it's going to have that result that you want. And so it's scary to say, all right, I'm going to have some let's say quinoa. That's a carb. So in our diet culture trained brain, oh no, and you get your little packet from your bariatric surgeon, you can't have carbs. And it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? The whole world is, you just don't know. And then once you understand and you learn how to eat, okay, yes, you're going to have some carb, but you're also going to pair it with protein and you're also going to pair it with some fat so that it does what it's supposed to do. That was the biggest learning for me was if I want to have um, a carb, let's say a rice cracker. Trader Joe's has these great rice little crackers, right? They're very, very tasty, but I know if I just eat those, I'm going to be hungry again in a matter of minutes. But if I pair it with a little fat and a little protein, I'm set for a couple hours. So allowing myself to eat food that was scary, and but with a new understanding that it's going to help fuel my body and shape it the way I want.
Yeah, that's really great. That speaks to the work that you've done to change your relationship with food.
Yeah.
I really, there's so many things I love about your story, Denise. I think first of all, you trusted the process. You kind of went through it and you were honest with the psychologist. And, you know, it sounds to me like you weren't failed, but maybe they were like, hey, listen, maybe you got a little bit of work to do before this happens. That's usually how that conversation goes. It doesn't go, I'm sorry, you failed. You can't have bariatric surgery. It's usually a little friendly and kinder. And I'm hopeful that yours was. NYU is where I trained. So I know that place. I know the program. It's a quality program. Um, but I love, first of all, that you trusted the process. And I think the other thing that I really love that I'm hearing is that you're very intentional and very present with your decisions, with how you've chosen to use fitness. And we haven't gotten there. I think that's going to be interesting to talk about. How you've used fitness, how you've adjusted your diet away from kind of the no carbs ever packet that people give. So I love all that intentional stuff. So I gotta like
I was like,
auto zoom,
wow.
auto
Thank
zoom. I gotta turn that off.
you. Yeah, thank you. It was I knew that I had to make a shift for this to be long lasting, and I just you had to I had to do the work and just execute, and if you don't get it that one day, then you do it the next day. So, but
What were some of the things that was the most helpful about that process? About that shift? Like you started out, you're like, okay, I'm not ready, I have anxiety. And then you got to the place where all of a sudden you were ready for surgery and then have really demonstrated, kind of ideal post-operative behaviors. What helped you get there? How'd you get from point A to point B?
from point A to point B really was I having that identifying factor of my trigger was anxiety, and identifying how I coped with it. So, understanding how to deal with those uncomfortable moments that we all have throughout the day. If I count them on my hand, countless uncomfortable moments throughout the day that just as human beings have, it's just how we respond to them. So I trained my body to always, seek out comfort, because if it hurts just a little bit, I don't want to feel that. So I would seek out, oh, I need a snack, I need this, what always chasing, I guess, the dopamine, effects to, kind of calm it down. But for me, the biggest thing was instituting a no eating in my car, no drive through. And I also calculated how much I spent on drive through, and it was not pretty. So it was a financial type of aha, like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Eating secretly in my car, that's a behavior that I didn't want to continue. And eliminating, drive through, because no one knows about it. So, what you don't see, no one knows. So it's only between me and the drive through parts. But um, working on that first really helped separate myself from the feeling, the moment, and pushing the pause button. I was able to start learning to hold on a second. What's going on? What am I nervous about? What's the anxiety for? And then learning to kind of like dissect it. Is this something I can do? Is this something I can change? Is this something that I can take care of at this moment? If it's not in my control, then I have to let it go. So understanding those four like tenets for me and practicing those really helped me prepare myself going into surgery. Because why do I have to destroy my body over something that's out of my control?
I think anxiety is really the result of taking a caveman brain and sticking it in a modern world. And since all of us have, to some degree, caveman brain, and all of us live in a modern world, the corollary of that is that all of us have anxiety. There's not a person on the planet who doesn't struggle with anxiety. I struggle with it. Everybody has it. If you don't have it, I don't know. There's probably a few people out there, but very few. And so what else I'm hearing that I really love about your experience is that you applied discipline, and you were kind of very thoughtful and applied essentially a modern day approach. And, the first was discipline. I'm not going to eat in my car. You came up with a financial reason. There were obviously health reasons as well. And you made that promise to yourself. And that's something that's, I think, so important about discipline is that, if you live your life in a very undisciplined way, just kind of giving into that caveman brain, then it's gonna make the anxiety worse. And it's that discipline, that promise you make to yourself, that sometimes is one of the best ways to really manage anxiety. And I love how thoughtful you were about that. And I also love this idea of just being present. And anxiety is a problem that you can't solve. And
Mm-hmm.
so torturing yourself over an unsolvable problem, recognizing, hey, this isn't something I can fix right now, so just stop worrying about it.
Exactly.
Right, because it just makes it worse. It doesn't help. Freaking out about a problem that you can't change doesn't help. It actually makes you far less able to solve the problem when it does come your way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that intentionality is just, it's so hard. You put a lot of effort into this, didn't
Oh
you?
yeah. I mean, developing self-awareness is hard, because we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to think of ourselves in a light that's wait a minute, maybe I'm not doing maybe it's me. We don't want to think that, but I was so tired of quitting. Um I was a professional quitter. And when you get to that point, you just don't want to do that anymore. So with the big stakes of having surgery, and I mean, there's risks involved. You have a family, and you better take it serious. So for me, it's like this is it. This is showtime. There is no going back. And I took it super serious, and I promised myself that I was not going to quit on myself. And thank God, thank God we're here.
So talk to us about how you came into fitness, obviously with the intention of building muscle, creating the shape that you wanted. But what was that transition like? How did you get to the place that you're at now? And what does your fitness look like now?
So I'm very blessed, and I'm very fortunate to be married to a personal trainer. So he was in charge of it from day one. And he's been a trainer for over 20 years and trained people in shows and competitions and things like that. And when you're married, it's like, oh yeah, leave me alone. Yeah, I got it, leave me alone. But when it was, now time for me to like kind of like take everything seriously, and he wrote out every plan that I've ever been, and he started off slowly. He didn't give me anything crazy. He didn't have me bouncing off the walls or doing combination moves. I was a 250-pound body that needed to learn technique, how to move it, how to move weight, and do it safely. His major key was safety. I don't want you getting hurt, and you're going to learn how to do things correctly. And I do things to this day that I still did on day one, because when you learn certain core movements, it will be a part of your routine pretty much all the time. So just developing those rules was, let's learn to do movement safely, and then we just keep building and building and building upon that. So my beginning program was, I think, 3 days a week, and it was full body for full body 3 days a week, and I walked. Walking helped me so much in the beginning. I dedicated 10,000 steps a day for 5 days a week. That kept me really motivated and going, because even on the days I didn't train, I still made sure I got out there and walked. And that was a huge commitment. So that was around, so I had surgery in August, and around October, I think, was when I got full clearance to do, more weight than what I was given. Um, and then from October to January, I started to see like a significant change in my body. I never thought I'd see any muscle development or anything. And then by January of 19, I started to see, oh, there's some possibility here. So then I said, okay, let's do 5 days a week. So we had a 5 day training split. So it was all organized a certain way. I had a, plan. Let's lose weight. Let's gain muscle. And that's what I did. And so that was in the beginning. I trained way more aggressively in the beginning. I still did cardio. I did fit before I would train and all this stuff, and I got real lean and very muscular, and it was like an alien. I didn't know who I was looking at, and um I wasn't it was just it's like surreal. Like I've never seen my body in that, you know, condition before. So when you get super lean, certain areas of your body also become very, very lean and flat. Um, so I was like, okay, let's do a little backtracking, and I want to fill in certain areas. So it was important to create the shape that I wanted.
Get them glutes back, huh?
Get my booty back because went away, it went somewhere else. Um, so that was, and again, that's when the nutrition piece ties into that, and when you purposely want to, create that shape, you have to eat a little bit differently, and it's been the same. That's what I've been doing all along. I'm older now. I will be 50 in 3 weeks. So I was
Happy early birthday.
younger. I was, your body's different at 44 than it is at 50. So, but so far so good. I'm still as strong or stronger than I was when I first started. So that's just the key for me. It's not so much about, obviously health reasons and the importance of having muscle, especially as you get older and you start aging, is so critical. Um, and my parents, they've broken bones. My mom has broken both of her hips, and I want to have a different outcome when I'm 80. I'm doing this now for when I'm 80.
Muscle is the fountain of youth. Having muscle, building it, using it regularly is probably the single most important thing you can do to slow the aging process down. Um, and so, it sounds like you've really kind of dialed in on that. I love to see that.
Yeah, I'm sold out for it. I really am. But so my training schedule now is kind of like 4 days a week, and we change things up a little bit. When I first started training, I was at a Planet Fitness, which is fine, and it suited me very well. I went to a Planet Fitness that had more equipment than most, so I think that was very helpful. And then at one point, I switched to a more um, bodybuilding gym, and that's where I was able to utilize more equipment, that more fancy stuff, and I saw different types of results there, which I really like. And but one thing I think is important is that understanding where you are in your fitness journey. If you do like to go to the gym, not everybody likes to go to the gym, and not everyone likes to work out. Some people are dedicated walkers, and that's totally fine. But if you are someone that likes to lift weights and you like to go to the gym, your environment is so important, especially for the morale, for your own self, for your own workout. Like who you surround yourself with. You may not know these people, but their intention, the people that you work out surrounding with, their intention can sort of influence you as well. You know, um, you can kind of have like a silent community in your head, like, oh, I know that girl, and oh, she's lifting that today. And I remember last week, you create this little team in your head. Maybe you don't speak to these people, but you see them all the time. So it's like I have my own CrossFit family in my head, but I don't want to talk to anybody. It's like, oh yeah, 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 I could lift more than that, but that type of a thing. But if you feel like you're getting bored, like with a place, or it's just like, oh, this isn't for me, look at other places, look at other gyms, like change the scene, because just changing the scene, changing the environment and the people that are around you is such a boost and can really help you move forward in your fitness.
Yeah. A workout partner too.
Hmm.
Workout partner is invaluable. You keep each other motivated. You push each other.
Yeah.
Makes time go by faster. You got to have two heads instead of one working on this problem. So do you work out alone, or do you work out with your husband, or do you have a workout partner? How does that work?
I pretty much work out alone, but if we go to the gym together, we're not like tag teaming on the on the machine too much. He does his thing and I do my thing, and we're like, hey, hi, whatever. Um, he gives me out my plan for the 6 weeks, and I just put it in my notes and I just follow it along. And if I'm being really good, then I'll write down like the sets and how much weight I'm using, and but that becomes a little too much. And but I like to have structure. I like rules. I like to follow a plan. Having a plan when you go to the gym really makes a big difference instead of just willy nilly. Oh, let me see what this does. Let me see what we do here. If you really want to see a difference, and to keep track of your progression and how strong you're getting, it's very important to consistently do the same thing for a certain amount of time, to be like, oh, when I first started this, I was at 20 pounds, and now at the end of 6 weeks, I'm at 35 pounds. That's wonderful. It keeps you going. It keeps you motivated.
You can't see that progressive overload that's required for building muscle if you're doing a bunch of different things every time.
Yeah, exactly. And try not to. People get caught up with like trendy workouts, or there's a video I saw on TikTok, or this is, this crazy thing with, no, you're gonna hurt yourself, and don't do that. So, if you're 300 pounds and you're starting on your journey, should not be jumping on, things and jumping up and down and, doing burpees and you're gonna hurt yourself. And it's okay that you can't do that right now. And, maybe don't ever do that. I don't know, um but along with the fitness part, what I wanted to mention is regarding nutrition and how it has been able to get me from point A in the beginning into now, and was tracking my food in the beginning was essential. Absolutely, for me, it helped me greatly, and I tracked for many years even afterwards. My my assumptions were always the worst thing imaginable. So if you gave me something to eat and I was like, "Oh, I don't know," I would always assume the worst. This has got a ton of fat in it. This has a ton of carb. This is terrible. This is going to ruin my whole day. But if I actually stopped for a second and plugged it in and put in what I'm eating, and then I see black and white the number, I'm like, "Oh, it's really not that bad at all, and this can totally fit into my day." So if you are a huge assumer, if you're assuming all of the caloric values of food, and you think the worst, and if your head goes to the worst, and then you say, well, I just blew the day without knowing the black and white evidence of what you're selecting, you know don't do that. Just see what it's actually worth, and then move on with your day, like, oh, this really isn't a
Yeah,
deal breaker. You don't
it's
want to throw in
an
the
analogy. Yeah, an analogy I sometimes use is like, if you dropped your phone and had a little crack in the corner, would you then be like, "Oh, this phone is wasted," and stomp on it and shatter the screen? No, you try to salvage it. And we have to do the same thing, because we're not going to be perfect every day, and that's going to happen. We're not going to be perfect with our exercise routine. We're not going to be perfect with our eating. And we just have to accept that sometimes, we might get a little nick in the corner of the screen. And as long as we don't shatter it, we're probably going to be fine.
And awareness precedes change. So you were able to use the tracking as a tool to gain awareness around what you were doing so you could make that mindful, intentional choice and the changes that you were wanting to make into your nutrition.
Absolutely. It gave me, it's like a superpower. It gave me that factual grace that I needed. Like, okay, let's say you go to a party or something, and you're not gonna. I mean, early on, I did bring my own food because I really didn't want to go stray. But eventually, you're not going to be doing that. So you have to enjoy life too, and you got to do your best bet. But if you've already done your homework and you know what 4 ounces of chicken kind of looks like, and you could assume like, all right, factor in maybe another tablespoon or something of fat because it's outside food, and you start learning how to assess these times, and then okay, this is what I had, and then enjoy it and move on, then tomorrow is a new day.
Mm-hmm. Don't dwell on it. So I want to know, we need the story behind your Instagram handle, the Crunchy Sleever. Talk to us about what the Crunchy Sleever is.
So, one, I like crunchy foods. That's obvious there. Crunchy. Sleever, because I had the sleeve, the VSG, bariatric sleeve. And I'm probably around 80% organic living, let's say. Not, I'm not I don't have a garden yet because I don't think I can handle it. I'm still from Brooklyn and I'm an expert in cement and watering down the cement, So let's not get crazy. But so they say crunchy and organic, living kind of like goes together. So that's where that all came from. So I try as best as I can. Does it make a difference? I hope so. If it doesn't, then I'm just out extra couple bucks, right? All the organic food.
Well, this was really great. I feel like you had so many wonderful nuggets. The whole story was wonderful, but so many really wonderful nuggets and takeaways that I think all play a huge role into your very obvious success. And now, 8 years later, you're living the life that you've created for yourself and the body that you love and feel good in and are proud of. So I'm just so grateful that you shared your story with us today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. You should be proud of yourself. I think, this was clearly a plan put in action.
Mhm.
And I think
Executed to perfection.
executed
Well,
to perfection. And I think that's, for some people that's daunting, but I think on the other hand, it also shows you that that it is possible to do that. And you were just very intentional about it, very thoughtful about it. You put a lot of energy and effort into it, and you've managed to be consistent and kept those promises that you made to yourself, before surgery. You've kept them to this day, and I think that's really amazing. And I'm really proud of you for everything you've accomplished. Congrats on that.
thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thanks for inviting me. And, um, anyone needs to talk or chat or whatever, they can always reach out to me on Instagram, and I'm happy to chat with anybody.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All
Thanks.
right. Have a great rest of your day, Denise.
All
Nice
right.
chatting with you.